your case in the murder, attempted murder, and conspiracy murder went to trial, correct?
Correct.
And you were found guilty.
Correct.
And you continue to deny that you committed the shooting in which this 7-year-old was killed, but it was mistaken identity.
Yes, ma'am.
So you're working with the Innocence Project? Did I read that?
Correct.
Okay, I thought they
Correct.
only dealt with DNA related cases.
Not to my knowledge, no. They deal with other crimes.
So what are they doing for you at present?
We're about to watch the parole hearing of a Connecticut man who's been locked away in prison since 1993. Now, his full term date is 2068. But because he was under the age of 21, you see in Connecticut, that's their legislation. Under the age of 21, you're still a child. He's getting a chance at a hearing. Now, he does something that one should never do, they say, at a hearing, and that's to claim that they are innocent. It's just not good, a good recipe for getting out. But he's insisting on it. He's making that choice. Will it affect the results? Now, he gives an opening statement that runs about till the 15-minute mark if you want to skip ahead. But I think it's worth listening to get the full picture. Now, with that, let's jump in.
As previously stated, this is the Public Act 23-169 hearing being conducted in consideration of the parole application for Gerardo Torres, inmate number 191627. Mr. Torres is serving a sentence of 94 years, followed by 3 years of probation for murder, attempted murder, conspiracy to commit murder, 2 counts of no pistol permit, sale of hallucinogen narcotic, 2 counts of sale of controlled substance, along with assault in the 3rd degree. There's no victim input in this case. There is an offender accountability plan in place that has been reviewed and shows that he has completed the following programs, which include Beyond Fear, Alternatives to Violence, Anger Management, Tier 2, Good Intentions, Bad Choices, Embracing Fatherhood, the Honor Program. He's reportedly having completed Thresholds and People Empowering People. And Department of Correction records also indicate he's currently participating in Voices and maintains a job assignment. Utilizing this statewide collaborative offender risk evaluation system, the offender's overall score on the RT falls within the low range risk for recidivism. Mr. Torres, this is now your opportunity to express to the board why you believe you should be granted parole, and you may begin.
Thank you. Good afternoon. I would like to start by thanking the Board of Pardons and Parole for giving me this opportunity. If I may, I would like to express how sorry I am to the victim's family and to the surviving victims. It is horrible that a young child lost his life that night. Although I was present on the scene, I have always said that I was not one of the shooters and that I did not have a gun that night. Even still, I feel remorse for how I behaved before I came to prison. I fully accept responsibility for my negative and illegal behaviors. I was immature, reckless, and I now understand that by carrying a gun and selling drugs, I put others in harm's way. I have no one to blame but myself for making the bad choices that put me there that night. I have shown remorse by giving back and being a mentor to other inmates so they don't reoffend. I also want to apologize to my family, especially my mother, for the pain and suffering I put them through my incarceration. I want to apologize to my community for my selfish and reckless behavior. I am truly sorry that the young victim was killed that night. Not to make any excuses, but I had a very bad childhood because of the abuse I witnessed and experienced in my home. I really respected my father, who was a Bridgeport police officer, but he turned out to be a bad guy. I was so young that I can't remember everything before he went to prison for killing someone. The trauma that I witnessed is burned into my memories. In one incident that I clearly remember, I was with my mother when a guy jumped out of the bushes and tried to grab her purse. When she refused to give him the purse, he grabbed me instead. She let go of her purse, which the man took and ran off with. When we got home, my mother told my father what happened. I remember father punched my mother in the face and split her eyebrow open. Other times I saw him beat my mother with his gun and baton. When I got older, my mother told me the whole truth of the abuse that she and I suffered, and that my father was a drug abuser. Due to the challenges I faced at home, like domestic violence, I was doing poorly in school. I always struggled and made grades. I always struggled and my grades were D's and F's. After my mother divorced my father and he went to prison, we were very poor. My mother struggled to make ends meet. My mother struggled to make ends meet for years. My condition at school was so stressful. I recall other kids saying mean things like, "You're wearing secondhand clothes and Salvation Army clothes." Today, I know all the violence and trauma that I experienced affected my development. It didn't help that I had never had a positive male role model while growing up. I ended up dropping out of school while in the 6th grade at Hall School in Bridgeport. I began my worst behavior after I dropped out. I hung out in the street with self-destructive people who sold drugs and carried guns. Soon I started selling drugs myself. The criminal lifestyle gave me the disguise of a better appearance, and I fell into that trap. I started wearing nice clothes and gold jewelry, and the girls who once rejected me started noticing me. I felt big and important. I failed to realize all the harm I was causing, and that the path I was taking would lead me to one or two places, prison or cemetery. At the age of 15, I was shot 3 times. I also saw one of my friends get killed due to street gun violence. Excuse me. As a result, I started to carry guns myself. I am so sorry that I failed to see the downward spiral that led me to June 26, 1991. On that night, I was hanging out with friends at the corner of Hall and Jane Street. We were drinking and smoking marijuana while making drug sales. I know that I helped create the atmosphere that caused the victim's death, and I fully accept responsibility for that. I am so sorry. I am so sorry and remorseful for what happened. The childhood history that I have shared with the board members does not justify my poor decisions and the worst actions of my life. It is not intended for that. I share my story to let you know what influenced my mental development and to give this board a way to measure my change for the better. While incarcerated, I have taken many self-programs with the goal to become a better person. So if I am ever given a second chance, I will live a safe, productive, and moral life and be a positive member of society. I would like to explain my journey of self-growth and rehabilitation over the past 33 years in prison. I came to prison as a misguided 19-year-old who thought I knew everything and no one could tell me anything. There were many bumps along the way in the beginning of my incarceration. Excuse me. I was still in survival mode, and I was very young in the environment of people who thought they never had a chance to go home. Sorry about that. And I was one of them. I want to say that, yes, I had 49 DRs in my 33 years in prison, and I fully accept responsibility for my actions. But most are from when I first came to prison. Throughout everything, I was doing progress, and I achieved my 8th grade diploma. I also always held a job and am a hard worker. About 15 years ago, a correctional officer pulled me to the side and said, "Mr. Torres, why don't you put to good use the gift you have to speak to the younger guys and help them realize that education and programming will help them better themselves?" That moment made me want to change my life. 8 years ago was my last DR, and I said never ever will I turn back to the old me. Today I am a changed man who takes life seriously. I apply what I learned in my programs to help myself and also others. Due to my good behavior, I live in Cheshire Honor Program. Honor stands for honesty, ownership, nobility, obligation, excuse me, and respect. Inmates are specifically chosen by staff to be housed there due to good behavior, among other things. The programs I took throughout my incarceration helped me and taught me to deal with violence, conflict, anger, and trauma. They have helped me grow as a person. Some of the programs that had the biggest impact on me are anger management, voices, ABP, and ABP Advanced. I want to give a brief example of an incident that happened about 2 years ago while I was at McDougal CI. I was sitting in the medical waiting area, waiting to be seen by the doctor, and a guy attacked me out of nowhere and broke my nose. I stayed calm. Instead of fighting back like the old me would have done, I held him to calm him down. By utilizing what I learned in these programs, like self-control and breathing techniques, I was able to remain calm. I now see how far I have come along. At Cheshire, I volunteer for the orientation program every week. I help pass out the orientation packages and pens and help those who don't understand English fill out their packages. I make all the copies and put all the orientation paperwork together. Since coming to prison, I have attended school, but due to my learning disabilities, I have always struggled. I had to work to improve my English. It took me 3 years to get my 8th grade diploma. I love helping my classmates that face the same challenges that I do. I mentor them by translating Spanish to English between students and teachers. It is rewarding to help those around me, especially consider how many help me and continue to help me as I work on getting my GED. From all the support I have in here and on the outside, I feel confident I will get my GED. If I am released on parole, I will sign up for adult education right away. I know getting my GED will help me get my CDL. I also understand that education is very important so that I can get a better paying job, have less stress, and a better life overall. For my reentry plan, I want this board to know that I have a clear idea of what I want and where I want to go. I feel that I have made enough positive progress to re-enter society at this time. I have both short and long-term goals. In the short term, I need to get my birth certificate and social security card. I will also make an appointment to get my state ID. My social worker, Mr. Montagna, will help me with all of this and anything else I need to get on my feet. I'm going to work for my future father-in-law, Mr. Carl Johansson, who owns Bojack Manufacturing. Excuse me. If parole grant my release, I will ask to live with my fiancée, Christy, who will be my sponsor. I've known Christy for 15 years, and we have been dating for 10 years. I will go to a halfway house if the board thinks that will be better for me. Mr. Montagna also found 2 programs near my fiancée house that can offer me therapy: Southern Connecticut Behavioral Health and Thrive Works. I also want to go to AA and NA meetings if I get out. There are at least 3 different churches near Christie's house that holds meetings: Woolmont United Church of Christ, United Presbyterian Church, and St. Peter's. My long-term goals include getting my CDO license. I also want to be a mentor in the community and do work helping kids with autism. Christy 2 boys have autism, and I love helping them. I also want to continue my relationship with my mother. Excuse me. She is 70 years old and has breast cancer that has spread throughout her bones. She lives in Puerto Rico, and I will talk to her with FaceTime and video calls as much as I can if I am released. Once again, I want to thank the board for allowing me the opportunity to be here today. I would like to ask you to please review and consider my entire journey, effort for change. Today, I'm a different man than I was when I came in as a 19-year-old misguided, troubled young man. I have many tools to become a productive and law-abiding citizen. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Torres. You were very well prepared today. I get a sense that you sort of know what what we want to hear about. You know, offender change, some examples of that. You did a very nice job in your research into what's available to you in the community. Also comes across. Thank you for that. We're going to be asking you some questions. When we're done with our questioning, we have no input from victim services today. And then we will then hear from the state's attorney, your attorney, and then we will deliberate. Okay? Any questions?
Yes. No, ma'am.
All right. Panel member Turner is going to begin with the questions this afternoon.
Good afternoon, Mr. Torres.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
So your case in the murder, attempted murder, and conspiracy murder went to trial, correct?
Correct.
And you were found guilty.
Correct.
And you continue to deny that you committed the shooting in which this 7-year-old was killed. I have all that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And there was a prior shooting in September of 1990. You didn't do that either?
No, ma'am.
Were you in possession of a firearm then? Because you were inside a pool room?
I did not have a gun that night.
Where did you get the firearms you acquired in the community?
For neighborhood acquaintances.
I can't hear you.
Excuse me, for neighborhood acquaintance.
So friends were giving you guns or were you buying them?
Buy them. Buy them.
So you got 85 years and then 5 more for the no pistol permit charges. So you have a 94-year sentence and you've served 34 years?
Correct.
Almost 34 years?
Correct.
So you've been in other state prisons on this bid, correct?
Correct.
Okay, Arizona, Massachusetts, Virginia.
Correct.
So in 2011, you were moved out of state. Where did you go?
Massachusetts.
Is that the attempted impeding order DR that you got?
Correct.
Okay, so why don't you tell us what you were doing? You were identified as recruiting and conspiring with other inmates to boycott the chow line, commissary, and the phone system. Why?
They identified 18 of us. That day they came in and locked 18 of us up, accusing us from what you just said about recruiting members, people to not use the phone and all that.
And were you involved?
I was one of the guys I was accused. Yes, and they accused me, and I went to SEG and they shipped us out of state.
Mr. Torres, my question was whether you were involved, not whether you were accused.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
Yes, ma'am.
why?
Being ignorant. Best I could put it, I was ignorant.
Well, what was going on in the prison at the time that you felt you needed to be party to this insurrection?
I think it had to do with how the prison to my recollection, I think it had to do with the food that they were serving at the time and the price of the commissary. I guess
The
it was
choices in the commissary?
the prices in commissary.
Prices, okay.
I apologize.
No, I'm just trying to understand clearly. So there was some indication from federal law enforcement that you were involved with drug dealings in the Bridgeport area as an enforcer? Is
I
there
was a
any
drug-
truth to that?
I was a drug dealer.
For the Aguilar family?
No, ma'am. I never was convicted with anything to do with them.
I'm not asking you about whether you were convicted, sir. I'm asking about whether
Yes.
you were involved.
Not with the Aguilar, no. I did sell drugs, yes, ma'am, but I was not involved with the Aguilar.
Was there another crime family you were working for?
Neighborhood. In the neighborhood, selling drugs with the rest of the neighborhood guys.
Did you serve a role or were you employed as an enforcer?
Oh, ma'am. I was just a drug dealer, a low-level drug dealer, selling in the corner.
Where did you meet your fiance?
I met her about 15 years ago by a mutual friend.
I'm going to ask you to be more specific. So this was someone you were incarcerated with, introduced you to her?
No. A friend of mine's in the street by the name of Jessica. She was in the car with her, and I said, "Who's that?" And she said, "Oh, it's my friend Christy." And I was like, tell her I said hi. And then from there on, she introduced me to her. Hey, this is my friend Gerardo. This is Christy. And then from there, a few other times, she was in the car with her when I called Jessica and we spoke. And then from there on, we hit it on. So I asked her, can I get her phone number? And 15 years later, we're together.
But you haven't spent time with her in the community.
No, ma'am. I met her while in prison.
So you were present when this shooting took place, but you were identified by multiple witnesses, including the driver of the vehicle, as a shooter. So why do you think that happened if you were just there?
They misidentified me, you know. The two people that identified me, they misidentified me that night. I did not have a gun that night, and I did not shoot that night.
And they were willing to come to court and testify that it was you under oath,
Right.
but it was mistaken identity.
Yes, ma'am.
So you're working with the Innocence Project? Did I read that?
Correct.
Okay, I thought they
Correct.
only dealt with DNA related cases.
Not to my knowledge, no. They deal with other crimes.
So what are they doing for you at present?
They working with the integrity unit on my conviction.
How long have they been involved in your case?
For a couple years now.
You're currently in the Voices program?
Yes, I'll finish that tomorrow. And tomorrow's the
You
last day.
mentioned it as one of the programs that was most impactful. How so?
Good intention, bad choices, and voices. It taught me the trauma, the impact that the trauma was on the victims. You know, for instance, like the lifelong trauma that they endure, not just them, but their family, the community. the videos that I was shown, that we've seen in Good Intention Bad Choices and Voices, was what did it for me. And once I seen them, the victim expressing, you know, what they went through and everything, it was very, very touching. It made me understand, you know, what they endured, you know. And specifically, like one incident when a young lady was hitchhiking in one of the videos, and a serial killer picked her up and chopped her hands off. That was real touching, real moving to me. And I was like, it brought me to tears when I seen that.
Did
The
it
lifelong-
teach you that every crime has a victim?
Repeat that again, ma'am. Sorry.
Did the program teach you that every crime has a victim?
Yes.
So in your possession of a firearm without a pistol permit, who were the victims?
In this case,
In your
Oh.
conviction for possessing a firearm without a permit, who were the victims?
I believe the victim was William Juicy Jr., Hector Gonzalez.
Okay, I'm not expressing the question correctly.
I
So
apologize, I'm not-
in your earlier conviction, or your
Yes.
earlier, where you were found in possession of a firearm before this shooting in which the child was killed.
Okay.
Okay, you got arrested,
Right.
you were in the community. Who were the victims in that case?
I think it was a gentleman by the name of David Pereira. If I'm not mistaken.
I think that the victims were the community itself.
Oh, I apologize. I misunderstood the question. Apologize.
Yeah.
But you're correct.
So why don't you share with me, in the time that you were out in the community, around the age of 19, and you did offer an apology to your community, talk to me about the harm that you caused by the choices that you were making in the community, both to sell drugs and to carry firearms.
It was my reckless actions. Selling drugs, it was reckless. Carrying guns, it was reckless. Back then, I didn't know the harm I
Well,
was
it was
causing.
illegal, but I'm talking about the harm to the community.
Selling drugs to the community. It was harm, because the effect it had on the family, on the child, on everybody around, you know.
These guns that you were acquiring, did you have any training on how to use them?
No, ma'am.
Go to the firing range,
No, ma'am.
take a gun class, gun safety class?
No, ma'am.
That's what I'm talking about in terms of the harm caused to the community. You were illegally in the possession of a firearm you had no training on how to use.
Correct.
Okay. And just by having it on you, you put the entire community in danger.
Correct.
And you're right, you know, selling drugs to people harms them, harms their family members, has quite a ripple effect. And, you know, is predatory, because were you using the kind of drugs you were selling? Cocaine and marijuana, you use those?
Sometimes.
So, you know, when you sell drugs to the community to line your own pockets, you're exploiting people suffering with an addiction, and
Correct.
it's predatory, right? Because
Correct.
they're vulnerable and they're. Okay. So any of your contraband tickets there in the facility involve drugs,
No,
alcohol?
ma'am. No, ma'am.
Yeah, you have an intox ticket.
Oh, yeah, one. My bad. Yes, one.
Mhm. But none of your contraband involved drugs or alcohol or Bruno?
Nah, they were just miscellaneous stuff like a broken nail clipper that you didn't have the thing or stuff
I'm
like
not
that.
really sure that that's accurate because they were Class A contraband tickets. So
One of
that's
them
not
was for having,
usually an A.
one was
ticket.
for having too many stamps and I forgot how many stamps envelopes I had.
So you manage your anger by talking to your family. Get people on the phone when you're feeling frustrated.
Right.
What other ways have you learned to manage your anger?
By talking to other people that are around me, like people that like taking anger management and also talking to my mentors in the honor program and other programs that I done took, and older generals than me, you know, talk to them about if I had a problem, I come to them and instead of reacting.
So, Mr. Torres, do you have any other strategies other than talking that you use to manage your feelings?
I used to listen to music. I used my breathing technique, meditate.
Do you journal?
I used to, and I stopped.
Sounds like a lot of these are things that you don't do anymore.
It's not that I don't do. I could still continue practicing the meditation, all that, the breathing techniques, and all that.
Because, you know, you got to have a lot of tools in your toolbox to manage your emotions.
Correct.
People aren't always available. You could be awake at 3 a.m, having trouble falling back to sleep, and it's not appropriate to call somebody necessarily. Unless
Correct.
it's, you know, addiction related. And so you have engaged in vocational training, commercial cleaning, serve safe.
Correct.
Are you still a hallway worker?
Correct.
Okay. And you're a COVID ambassador.
Correct.
Thank you for doing that work, helping to keep people safe during the pandemic there in the facility, encouraging people to get vaccinated. Were you a cleaner as well?
No, not in this facility. When I was at McDougal before, I was a biohazard cleaner when I worked in medical. I'm certified for that too.
Yeah, but that wasn't during COVID, was it?
No. Oh yeah. We did. When as a tierman, yes, ma'am. My apology. We used to clean the block, and whoever moved out that had COVID, we had to go in there and clean the cells.
So why don't you tell me what being a part of the honor program has meant to you?
Honor program mean a lot to me. Number one, it's a space where you could sit down with your peers and express your feelings, your emotions, what you've been through. We hold groups in where we talk about how our childhood was. I take advantage of the guys that help us with our GEDs, the tutors. We got tutors in the block, and they sit with us and help us out. And I try to participate in every program I can in there. I also help mentors other guys, the younger and the elders.
Do you think you've been able to overcome your childhood?
I think so. Even though it's, you know, at time I sit back and I wish I had a father figure in my life, you know. I wish I had a father figure in my life growing up. instead of not having one. You know, so have I overcame my, yeah, to some extent, yes.
Were you ever able to talk to your mom about the abuse that you witnessed she suffered?
Yes, ma'am.
Important part of processing those childhood traumas. So how do you feel about, what are your feelings about being incarcerated?
You know, it's hard. I came in, apologize. I came in at the age of 19 years old. Today I'm 52 years old, about to be 53. So I spent all my life in prison so far. And I try to take it day by day, you know. Some days are easy, some days are harder than others.
But I'm asking you about your feelings.
I feel being in prison. Not a good feeling. Being in prison for 34 years, you know. It's not a place where I want to be.
And I don't think anyone would say that they want to be where you are. But, you know, you're asserting to us that you didn't commit the crimes for which you're serving most of your sentence. And so I'm wondering what your feelings are about having 33 years of your life taken from you, if you honestly believe you're innocent.
Right. It's like I said, every day it's a challenge, you know. This has been hard on me, been hard on my health. I got heart problems and all that. And
I guess I'm trying to ask you to describe hard. Are you angry? Are you frustrated? Are you depressed? Are you at peace? How are you feeling?
right now I'm more at peace in myself because I forgave the people that put me in jail. You know, for me to have healing, I had to start by forgiving others. You know.
So why do you think they were so certain it was you? Do you think they went to court and they lied?
I could say this, that they wrongly accused me, and I think it was because of the people.
But you think they did it deliberately? Intentionally fingered you?
Yes.
So why?
Because the people that I associated with,
I don't know what that means.
because of my other co-defenders.
They didn't implicate them?
Yes.
So you got fingered along with your co-defendants. Is that what you're saying? You got swept
Yes.
up in the whole, okay.
Yes.
Well, I'm glad to see that you are making some efforts at giving back. You want to go to your fiance's home. Do you have any employment leads?
Yes, ma'am. I'll be working for her father, Mr. Carl Johansson. He owns Bojack Manufacturing Company. They specialize on high-rise fires systems. If when I start working there, I would, if parole grants me parole, and when I get out, I start working there, I will be putting the PC some PC on the PC boards, soldering
Okay.
some pieces on the PC boards that will be
Right.
for the
Actual
fire system.
manufacturing. Mhm.
Yes, ma'am.
So why do you want to get a CDL? And how do you get a CDL if you don't have a high school diploma?
Correct. When if granted parole, I will be attending adult education like ASAP as soon as I get out. And once I complete that, then that's when I want to get my CDL. And to answer your question, why I want to get it, because my brother Miguel does that, and he's been doing it for 27 years. And I see the good living that he has, you know, by driving trucks. It's a good paying career.
So you've been in school there at the various facilities, 5 years? You've been working on your GED?
Correct. On this
Okay.
last time, yes.
Have you taken any of the 4 tests?
No, ma'am, because my teachers feel like I wasn't
Ready?
ready enough.
Well, you know, you owe it to yourself to get your GED. It's a foundation on which you can build the rest of your life. So you know, it's hard work. You've been out of
Correct.
school for a long time, but it's an important step for your future.
Correct.
I don't think at this time I have any more questions for Mr. Torres, so thank you for talking with me. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Mr. Rodriguez? Okay, Mr. Torres, I have a couple of follow-up questions. So Ms. Turner asked you a little bit about the anger management program, and I have that you've taken it 2 times. You took
Yes,
it in
ma'am.
Virginia in 1999, so you were about 25. I'm just doing some rough math. And that you took it again at McDougall. Am I wrong? No? Okay. Then you took it again in 2007. So you were 34. Why did you take it again?
I took it the second time because even though I took it the first time, I want to do a second time to really like, I wanted to get more out of it, what I could have gotten
Okay.
out of it to better
think that's-
myself.
Okay, that's a good answer. So tell me, as being a little bit older and taking it the second time, I know it was a while ago, what do you think you got out of it the second time that's helped you?
Well, after taking the second time, now I don't react to how I used to. Like today, I'm a better listener. I'm a a better communicator. You know, I seen things differently than what I used to, you know?
Okay. I do. Okay, so let's talk about that for a quick minute. So why is it important? Why will it help you to be a better communicator, a better listener? How is that going to be useful in the community? Or how is it useful to you now?
For one, it made me a better person. 2, I will use it in the community because it's in the community, when you get out, you will be able to, you probably face the same challenges out there, more challenges than here. So by you being a better listener and a better server and all that, you could communicate better with people out there, you know?
Okay. What are you most proud of? What do you think your biggest accomplishment through these 33 years of incarceration has been?
Changed my life around. That's what I'm real proud of. The person that I am today, I am not that 19-year-old misguided trouble kid that was. Today, I'm a 52-year-old man that knows what he wants. He in a better place mentally and physically. Well, physically, I'm not good because I got heart problems, but I'm in a better place today than I was when I first came into prison. I got the tools necessary that have given me a second chance to be successful in the community.
Okay. What does it mean to be successful in the community? What does that look like for you? I'm going to say successful, productive and successful. What does that look like for you?
Being a productive member of society, giving back to the community.
We say that all the time, though. What is it?
Say that again?
I mean, people say that all the time. It's almost like it's just a phrase. What does it mean to you to be successful? How How do you see yourself as successful in the community?
Doing charity work, doing charity work, helping others in any way, shape, or form I can. Like I said, giving back to the community.
I also, it is part of being productive and successful is working, taking
Of
care of
course.
yourself, taking care of your family, not getting, not breaking the law.
Right, that's the first things. Taking
Right.
care of myself first.
Right. Those are the basics,
Apologize.
right? And
Yes, ma'am.
we hear so often, about giving back once you're in the community. And I always think it's important. Of course, we want to hear that. Of course, we know a lot of individuals who've done a lot of time in jail who do get out there and work with a lot of organizations that talk to the young kids. But before you do that, you have to be productive and stable and successful yourself.
Right.
I know that you went to trial and you said that you were not involved in this particular incident. Do you think that a person can be rehabilitated if they don't take responsibility?
I think they could. I
Okay.
think that if they show otherwise, yes, ma'am. If they do the programs and do everything he's supposed to, yes, ma'am.
And you have taken a lot of programs in
Yes, ma'am.
Connecticut and at the other facilities that you've been at. And you've been in Virginia, Massachusetts. Was there a third state you were in?
Arizona.
Arizona. And you've done programs in all 3 states. Why do you keep doing programs? You have a 94-year sentence. Why has it been important for you to do programs?
Because an elder gentleman at one time told me back in 90, I think it was 93, roughly 93, 94, he said, just because you got a lengthy sentence, that don't mean that you could stop from bettering yourself. You could continue doing programs so you could become a better person, so you could better yourself. So that stuff threw me in anywhere and everywhere I go. Matter of fact, today, my counselor came to me and asked me if I want to be a part of a program that she's starting tomorrow, financial literacy. And I was like, sure. So, and I don't have to do that, but I'm always want to do programs so I could better myself, so I could learn something, so I could have the necessary tools if I ever get the second chance to go to society, that I had those tools.
So what do you think when you see yourself out of jail and in the community? What do you think will be difficult? What do you see as being some of the difficulties?
Adjusting. I'm not gonna lie.
Mhm.
Being in prison for 33 years, it's not like you're gonna go out there. It's gonna be I know it's not gonna be a walk in the park, but with the support I have from my fiance, her father, my family members, I will be successful. I know if I have any problems, I run into any problems, I could call my caseworker, Louis Montagna, at any time. I know I will call my parole officer if I have to at any given time, and even my lawyer if I have to. I will reach out to people.
Yeah. Okay. What kind of programs do you think will be helpful to help with you getting back and adjusting to being home?
One, mental health. As I spoke to my casework, I want to give mental health counseling, because like I said, being in prison for 33 and a half years, I came at the age of 19. I'm well aware that I'm gonna need some counseling. So that's one of them. Also, I want to do AANA just so I can continue that recovery path.
It's a very supportive environment as well. It's another kind of a safe zone to find yourself. Anything else?
Yeah, I'm gonna work, and whatever time I have available, I want to do it, doing productive things like giving back to the community, volunteering. One of the things I want to do is work with autism kids because my fiance's kids got autism, and I get along real good with them and we communicate good. So yes, I want to do some work with kids with autism.
We have I count roughly 15 letters of support, family, friends, friends of your family, correctional officers. So a lot of letters of support. And, the common thread is that they all talk about your change, your maturity, and that respect. And it's hard to read all those letters and then we go back to what you're incarcerated for, right? Not just the case that you went to trial for, but just all the other 2 or 3 cases, gun charges, drug charges, that are run consecutive to this. Do you see? Have you witnessed that change, or you look back? Let me rephrase that. I'm sorry. Describe yourself for me back then. Give me 3 or 4 words that describes you back then.
Reckless, immature, and they have a care for nothing, I guess.
And today, like you said, you're 52 years old. You've been in jail almost 3 times what you were in the number of years you were in the community.
Correct.
So what kind of man are you coming out of jail?
That's a changed man. I'm not that young. I'm not that young. This guy, the 19-year-old kid that came in, today I got the tools to be successful if granted parole.
Now, if you were to get parole today, by my rough math, that's 24 years of discretionary parole. Then there's 3 years of probation. That's a lot of supervision. You were on community release when you got arrested on these charges. I know you're much older. What's your plan for getting through parole?
Staying busy, working. Like I said earlier, every time I got free time, it's gonna be doing stuff with my family. Doing charity work. Like I said, I want to do work with the YMCA in Milford. I also want to work with the autism kids. So every time I have a free time, that's why I want to spend my time so I could keep busy.
Okay. All right, Mr. Torres, thank you for answering all my questions. I appreciate that. We're going to move forward now.
Yes. You don't have any input from services.
Right.
So at this time, speak to the attorneys that are dealing with state's attorney, any comments or things to me.
I think I heard state's attorney. Is someone addressing me? Because it was in and out with my microphone.
Yes, sorry about that, but this is now your opportunity to speak and make a statement if you wish to.
Oh, thank you. I'm so sorry. For some reason you went out. Okay. Yes, thank you. Again, I introduced myself, Maura Coyne from the state's attorney's office in Bridgeport. The defendant has a violent criminal history dating back to 1990 for violence, drugs, firearm possession. The FBI here in the Bridgeport office located him as an enforcer for an organized crime organization. More specifically, he exploited businesses and patrons with the threat of violence. I am assuming that was done with a gun. Of course, I can't prove that. I don't know how else you get people to do things like that for you. And basically the facts are just so egregious. A 7-year-old child is sitting in a car safely with his stepfather and mother and is riddled with bullets into a vehicle. 8 bullet holes were seen. They were from different firearms, from the 40 spent shell casings that came. The victim's stepfather, who would have the perfect bird's eye view, observed 5 males in Spanish say, "Let's do it now." He didn't just single out this defendant, he singled out all 5. They were all arrested. The defendant was not only identified by the victim's father, he was identified as possessing at the scene a semi-automatic firearm that he was using as he shot at his family's vehicle. Another witness who was in a parked vehicle also identified positively this particular defendant. So we're over 3 decades later, he's still denying accountability. I don't know how you express remorse when you don't take accountability. So really, those are just words of empathy. And they're not words of remorse, because you have to take accountability in order to have remorse for your actions, in my opinion. I just cannot believe after all these years, he's still denying his active role in what he did to this child. He does describe his activity as reckless. Again, no accountability for intentional conduct. He does know the difference. The everybody language, I always say, when you say that you use the term everybody, that you think your criminal behavior is affected, you're including yourself. And I do think he's including himself, because he keeps referencing him going back to a 19-year-old kid going into prison like himself. But there's also a victim who should be in their early 30s right now, living a lovely life, but is not. So he still maintains his innocence. He's got 49 DOC tickets, 6 of them are for fighting, most recently 2017. I don't consider that so long ago. And he states that an 8-year-old got shot. He doesn't say I shot him, got shot somehow. And he even called himself a witness to the murder. So, which I think is interesting from what he was saying earlier today. He actually put himself on the corner in this report and said he witnessed the shooting while he was on a street corner. I think he said something differently today, but I defer to your judgment. And despite the overwhelming evidence, he continues to persist. I would just indicate too that, and I am like a big advocate of education in prison, out of prison. I'm just from a big educated family and I'm just so into it. But I think in 34 years or whatever, you should be working towards a GED, because I agree with the board. It is the one foundational thing that you can always rest on that will give you something as some sort of a landing if something doesn't work out, whatever his initial plan is. I'm a big believer in that. And I just believe in 34 years, you should have your GED. And I think if you were really wanting to be successful on the outside of the walls of that prison, you would have that GED. I'm not in any way disputing like his efforts to get the 8th grade education. I get it, but education, we all know, is security. And it's also a way to give structure and success to someone's life. I will also indicate that one thing I just wanted to say. Oh, also, he made a lot of comments about his awful childhood. And of course, everyone in society that has a rational mind has empathy towards that. But, awful circumstances doesn't mean that person is ready to live amongst us, or I don't know how else to phrase it. Awful circumstances are terrible. I understand that. And it does sound like he had some awful upbringing, but at the same time, it doesn't mean that it's safe yet for him to live amongst us. And the state does not believe enough has been done for this individual to establish any kind of comfort level that he will not reoffend or commit violent crime in the future. And the only other thing I was going to mention was with the substance abuse. This is the first that he's actually saying that he had a substance abuse. And I know he was taking classes, but when he was doing the report, what I was surprised by was he said the age of 12, he had been drinking, and then he was drinking every day leading up to this incarceration. But then he denied needing any kind of a substance abuse intervention. And then he's saying today that he has substance abuse plans when he gets out. So I don't know. I'll defer to the board. I was confused, but I will leave it there. And that's the state's position, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Thank you, Attorney Point. At this time, Attorney Marzak, if you have any comments or final remarks you would like to make, you may do so now.
Yes, thank you. And thank you for giving us this opportunity. So I'll just start by saying, obviously, this was an incomprehensible crime. It was a horrible crime. It was an incredible tragedy that I can't even begin to understand. Mr. Torres, he has always maintained his innocence. He knows being here and saying that he's innocent will not work to his benefit at this time. I know we're not litigating his innocence claim here, far from it. But I want this board to know that my office, the Connecticut Innocence Project, represents Mr. Torres in front of the Conviction Integrity Unit. We had a prior policy years ago that we only took DNA cases, but that hasn't been the case for years now. The gist of the innocence claim is that, so there were 5 co-defendants in this case. 2 of them went to trial immediately after Mr. Torres, and another one went to trial after that. At those trials, 4 separate witnesses, including 2 who were called as state's witnesses, said that Mr. Torres was not one of the shooters. They testified to the same exact thing that Mr. Torres testified to, that a man named Edgar and a man named Ivan were the shooters. Edgar and Ivan were both convicted. Of the 5 co-defendants, 2 of them were found not guilty. Edgar Robles, he received a sentence of 25 years and served 17 years. He's been out of prison for more than a decade at this point. And the point on the later testimony of in the co-defendants trials, Mr. Torres has never been able to present that to a court. He didn't even know about it until I read those transcripts and I told him about what these 4 witnesses said. I also want to note that in this case, he gave up the names of the 2 shooters. 6 days after he was arrested, he had a Bridgeport police detective come to the prison he was at, and he said it was Ivan and Edgar. That's what he testified to at his own trial, and that's what these other 4 witnesses all testified to at the later trials. The sentencing court, after Mr. Torres was convicted, gave no apparent consideration to his youth. We know a lot more about juvenile brain development now. Mr. Torres, he went to trial at the age of 20. He was arrested at 19. He's been in prison since then. He was a teenager when he was living on the streets and selling drugs and carrying firearms. The person he is now at 52 is worlds apart from what he was at 19. With respect to his education, Mr. Torres certainly has struggled over the years. I know I've been working with him for a couple years now. I know he is frustrated at his lack of progress. He has learning disabilities. He recently took a test for dyslexia. I will not at all be surprised if it turns out that he does have that. He's been trying hard to get his GED. He has trouble with it. I fully believe that if he's in the community, he enrolls in adult education, the special education services that will be available out there in the community will help him tremendously. I really think that if he gets out and he's able to take adult ed cases, he will be able to get his GED. And I know that is probably his most important goal. While he has been in prison for all these years, he's talked about all the programs he's taken. They've been extremely valuable to him. They've helped transform him. I think they're a real credit to the Department of Correction that they have worked as intended for Mr. Torres and for so many other men and women who come to prison in the state. It was often difficult for him due to his sentence length to get into programs. He was not a priority for many of the programs that he took. But fortunately, he was able to get into them over the years, and especially over the last, 5 or 6 years. And they've just been life-changing for him. I do also want to stress that Mr. Torres has a fantastic reentry plan. It's realistic, and he has a lot of family out there who are willing to go to bat for him. He has his fiance and his fiance's father who will be offering him a job. He has his brother who lives in state. He has multiple cousins who live in state. Board members who saw the letters from his family members, they'll be there for him. They'll have his back. He has a home. He has those loving family members. He has a job waiting for him. He knows where to go to get his ID, his other identification documents, to go to school, to go to AA and NA meetings, to go to therapy, which he will certainly need after 33 years inside. He'll have my office in social worker Montagna working with him to get all that done for him. And just about I just want to also know something. I represent Mr. Torres here in the juvenile parole hearing. Even if he is granted here, I'm going to continue to represent him. My office is going to continue to represent him. I do think that even with his claim of innocence in this case, this is not fully a failure to accept responsibility. Mr. Torres fully accepts responsibility for the crimes that he committed as a young man, his illegal behavior. He carried a gun around. He sold drugs. He was, he was not a good guy out there. And even if he didn't fire a gun that day, he knows he was caught up in the gang violence that was at the heart of all this. And there is responsibility there. And I know he knows that. He knows the harm he caused when he was out on the streets years ago. And I know he's truly sorry for that. I think he's really improved himself over the 33 years, and especially over the last, 5, 6, 7, 8 years. At this point, after more than 33 years in prison, his 20s, his 30s, and his 40s, and he's now 52, he's fit for release, and he fits the statutory criteria for release. I believe there's a strong probability he'll remain free if he's paroled without violating the law. Like I just said, he's now an older man. He's middle-aged. He'll soon be elderly. He has no desire to go back to what he'll be when he was 19 years old, or what he was when he was 19 years old. Having his reentry plan will really help him stay on the right side of the law. He's going to be busy. He's going to have a lot to do. He's going to have family members there for him. Knowing Mr. Torres, I know he's not going to go back to what he was 3.5 decades ago. And parole supervision will be there too. I think that'll be invaluable as well. I think he's demonstrated that he's rehabilitated. Multiple DOC staff members have written in support of him. They didn't need to do that. This wasn't in evaluations. This was in letters that they wrote on his behalf. The programs he's taken, and more recently being in the honor block, really had a profound impact on him and his way of thinking. He's always been a hard worker. He's always held a job. Even as he struggled in school, he always held a job. His evaluations are tremendous and show a respectful and hard worker. And again, he's really trying to get his GED. I know he is, and I know he's eager to enroll in adult education if he gets out, and hopefully we'll have some extra help out there. So based on everything that we heard today, I believe there's no benefit to Mr. Torres' continued incarceration. I think he's received the maximum benefit from incarceration. He's taken all the programs he can, and his release is compatible with the welfare of society. I'd ask the board to grant him parole. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. So we are all done with the question portion of our hearing. So we will deliberate and give you our decision in just a few minutes. Ms. Turner?
Still trying to wrap my mind around some of what was just shared. So help me with my math here, because you seem to have different numbers.
Okay.
And maybe I'm not including the earned credit, but I see a end of sentence date in 1968 or 2068.
Mm-hmm.
He's served 34 of the 94 years, so he has 60 left, and then credit comes off of.
DOC records indicate there's an estimated release date of February 2057.
Sooner than I had. And he's been incarcerated since 1991. That's what I looked up.
Yeah,
Bad thing was, if he had been incarcerated for that first gun crime, the second, I guess it doesn't make sense to say the child wouldn't have been shot because he didn't shoot the child, right?
Okay.
So, I'm at loss for figuring out how to help Mr. Torres. Cutting his sentence by 60 years. I don't know how to do that. That just seems, I I appreciate that he scores low for his risk to reoffend and that he's done a lot of good things with vocational and programming. You know, so maybe somebody else should go.
All the evaluations are good.
Mr. Rodriguez,
All the
what are your
evaluations
thoughts?
are good. And support letters, I struggle with it as well. I don't know, that makes years ago now.
You know, when I looked at the sentence, I looked at all the consecutive pieces to it. It's not often that we see that. I kind of took a look at the most significant of the sentences. Yeah. So, this is my assessment for what it's worth. So, Mr. Rodriguez was 18 years old. He was out on community release when this happened. The other co-defendants in this case were 24, 25, and in one other case, 39. Right? We have no date of birth on another. So he's the youngest of the group. He scores low to at risk to recidivate. His risk factors were identified as criminal history, education, employment, and finance. I think he can't do anything about the criminal history. He's been working on his education. He's been employed while he's been incarcerated, and he has skills to bring home with him into the community. He's got a medical score of 4. He has done, I don't know about my other board members, but it's not common that we see so much programming done when they're transferred when inmates are transferred out of state. I think we've seen a handful when they're transferred to Virginia at that one time, and there's very little programming, if any, is done. So I did give Mr. Torres a lot of credit for all that he has managed to, I don't know if he talked himself into the programs or just found himself in the right place, but he did a lot of programs in Massachusetts. He did schooling in Arizona. He is a Spanish-speaking person who taught himself to read English. He has used his skills in that respect to help other inmates with translating in the school itself, helping out with orientation. He has worked. I have him with excellent work reports that talk about him being respectful, taking initiative, being dependable, cooperative, that he is no issue. And his good work reports I have going back to 1999. I think his goals for when he gets out are reasonable and realistic. It's clear that he was reckless, immature, impulsive, which is what we see in these cases that this law was made for, the 18, 19 juvenile brains that are underdeveloped at the time that they commit these offenses. I asked Mr. Torres about, can you be rehabilitated if you don't accept responsibility? And, he answered that he thinks he can. Again, I go back, I look at somebody who has a 94-year sentence and he continued to take programming. I think he could have looked at it as being hopeless, that he was in jail at the age of 18 for the rest of his life, essentially. But he continued to do what he could to improve himself and make himself a better person all the way around. I think that speaks to his rehabilitation. I think his translating in the facility, helping out at the school, speaks to his efforts at volunteering. He takes responsibility for that lifestyle he was living. Had he not been living that lifestyle, he would not be before us today. It is clear he has a lot of support in the community. There was a number of letters, and his girlfriend's father-in-law, which his daughter's dating somebody with someone that's been incarcerated all those years, and he sees the good in him also, willing to give him a job, sent a letter to that effect. He talked about his brother, who has been making a living working as a truck driver. I think that's a also a strong indication of support in the community. I think it's very unfortunate that Mr. Torres hasn't been able to get his GED, but I think there's other things happening there. I think it's from a lack of effort in any respect. So I know it's a big ask for us today, but I am in favor of granting his discretionary parole. My math puts him on discretionary parole for 24 years. You know, maybe that provides a huge blanket of safety in the community, but that'll make Mr. Torres 76 years old when he finishes. He's 52 now. We also know that risk for recidivate reduces as individuals get older. He alluded to some medical issues. We, of course, would not be going into that. But I would be in favor of granting his discretionary parole today.
Peace.
I mean, we're looking at suitability for parole. Our job today is not to talk about whether he is guilty or innocent. And I think if he came before us today and said, today I did it, you know, we'd be wondering why he put everybody to trial, or he spent all these years saying he didn't do it. You know, our job is suitability for parole. That's the statute. And by my review, my assessment is I have found Mr. Torres to be suitable. I'm going to make a motion.
Well,
There's just so many factors that aren't explained.
yeah.
This whole FBI situation,
Yeah, I hear all that, but all we have are those couple of, sorry, Ms. Turner, go ahead.
And now we have the public defender explaining to us, you know, things about witness statements and the co-defendants and their sentences and who was found guilty. It's I'm going to vote minority.
Okay. So in the matter of Geraldo,
We discussed his conditions.
yes, we can.
No alcohol, mental health evaluation and treatment, no co-defendants plus Bernard Testani.
Yes.
And I want to see a halfway house placement in case this relationship doesn't pan out.
Okay. Right. So in the matter of Geraldo Torres Jr., 191627, I make a motion to grant discretionary parole on or after today, December 16th, 2024, with the following conditions. No alcohol consumption, halfway house placement if needed, mental health evaluation and treatment as deemed necessary, no contact with the deceased family, DG, BF, DG, no contact with co-defendants, Juan Rivera, Samuel Segarra, Ivan Diaz, Edgar Robles, and Bernardo Testani. Do I have a second? All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed?
Aye.
Aye. So, Mr. Torres, it's a majority decision vote to grant you to discretionary parole today. You know, we wish you the best of luck, and I certainly hope that you follow through with all the resources that have been put in place for you, and the opportunity that's just been afforded to you. You have a long period of parole. It will be what you make of it.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Appreciate it.
This concludes the public act 169 hearing for Gerardo Torres in the number 191627.
And they granted, and it was interesting. I wasn't sure how it was going to go. And now I have to tell you that we don't have any research on this case. There's no appeals. There's no information. Now, this case took place 12/16/2024. And I was just going back through some of these older cases. I like the PA 23-169 hearings, and that's why I thought I'd bring it to you, and I'll bring more of them to you if you want to see them. But it is interesting. Do you think, I mean, do you think that he actually is innocent of that crime? And again, it almost backfired by insisting on his innocence, and that doesn't make sense to claim that you're innocent, right? Unless, of course, you have the Innocence Project backing you. But the whole thing does seem sketchy. And by the way, this just happened a few weeks ago. Lady Holly reached out to the Innocence Project. She did this on her own for someone that we covered in Louisiana who we think, or at least she thinks, is probably innocent. And it was an interesting case. He was someone who was sentenced to life for habitual robbery, and he had gone through 4. It was a cold case. I don't know why they were so eager to solve this case, and basically he had gone through 4 lineups where the victim couldn't guess his name on the first lineup, not on the second lineup, not on the third lineup. Finally, in the 4th lineup, she said, "Oh, that's him." But he was the only same picture shown in the 3rd and 4th lineup. And it was, I don't know, it just seems sketchy. And Holly wrote the Innocence Project, and they wrote back saying that they don't take cases unless they are DNA based. Now, the Innocence Project has, I think, different divisions for each state or whatever, and maybe they have their own rules, but that is what just happened for us. So by the parole board member, let's see who it was. It was Palmieri, Turner, and Rodriguez. I don't know if it was Turner or Palmieri that challenged it, saying, "I thought it's only DNA based that they take up the cases," because let's be real, what are they going to do to prove that he's innocent? I mean, you're talking about like 30 years ago and a jury that said he was guilty based off of, eyewitnesses. Like, I don't, anyways, but they decided to grant. How do you feel about it? I thought the ADA had some strong points, except I don't really get the whole idea of, well, he needs his GED. I mean, I get it that I guess if you're out of prison, having your GED may help you get jobs that you wouldn't otherwise be able to get. That's like a threshold at some jobs, just the minimum that they ask for. Hold on a second. But what else? Oh, the other thing I wanted to bring up, you might have recalled this case. So he brought up in one of the programs what he learned, right? And he talks about the girl who had her arms chopped off by that case has stuck with me. I've seen it. Maybe you're familiar with it. She was a girl hitchhiking. I think it was in the 80s. This literal psychopathic serial killer chomo guy kidnaps her, takes her out into the woods to do the worst to her. She fights back, and he chops off both her arms. She describes falling down and seeing her hands still clutching both his shirts, and she's left for dead. Now, what the case doesn't get more insane than that, right? She survives. She's done a lot of interviews. You might have seen her. She has claws for hands now. But listen to this, and this is why it stuck with me, because it's the most insane, barbaric case. He's found guilty by a jury for some unknown, unfathomable reason. I don't know the details of this. Maybe I could. He was sentenced to only 14 years in prison. This is Florida. He was released after serving just 8 years on good behavior. So someone who it clearly is attempted murder, and chops off this girl's arms after, and he did essay her. Only gets 14 years, released on good behavior for 8 years, and then when he's out, what does he do? He kills another girl. He kills a girl. And he gets sentenced, and he died at age 74 of old age in prison. So that's always been a case that has struck me as just the absolute, like any judge that, like, I don't believe it could have possibly been the legislation. The whole thing is madness to me. But yeah, that came up. If you haven't seen that case, you can, maybe I'll put a link to one of the documentaries in the description, because it's one that you can't believe. But she is a true survivor, the epitome of the word survivor. She gets up and gives, and as you can see, she's doing things for these programs. But she's always struck me, and she's still just like, she has this aura to her, and you have to see her talk about it. It's just something else. She should be with the heroes that we sing praises about. Anyways, I have nothing. You know, it's interesting. What can I possibly know if he's actually innocent of the crime? I don't know. But what does seem lost in all this is the little boy whose life was lost, right? And with that, I'll let you go.
Identify positively this particular defendant. So we're over 3 decades later, he's still denying accountability. I don't know how you express remorse when you don't take accountability. So really, those are just words of empathy. And they're not words of remorse, because you have to take accountability in order to have remorse for your actions, in my opinion. I just cannot believe after all these years, he's still denying his active role in what he did to this child.